I used to believe I knew who I was. I was Daniel, husband, provider, a man who wore suits and ties, who fixed things around the house, who mowed the lawn on Saturday mornings and watched football on Sundays. I was the picture of ordinary, the definition of unremarkable. But ordinary men don't find themselves standing in front of a full-length mirror, wearing a silk dress and high heels, tears streaming down their cheeks, wondering how their life became a stranger's story. Yet here I was. And the reflection staring back at me was not Daniel. It was someone I barely recognized. Someone my wife had created. Someone I had been forced to become. This is my story. Not of triumph, not of transformation, but of survival. Of losing everything I thought I was, and finding something I never expected to find along the way. The end began on a Tuesday. It was a cold, gray autumn morning, the kind where the sky hangs low and heavy, promising rain that never quite arrives. I was in the kitchen, making coffee, when Valeria walked in. She was already dressed for work. A power suit, red lipstick, hair pulled back, so tight it seemed to stretch her features. She looked like a woman who had never doubted herself for a single moment. "Good morning," I said, trying to sound cheerful. She didn't respond. She just walked past me, grabbed her briefcase, and headed for the door. "Valeria?" I called after her. "Did you sleep okay? You seem—" "Don't," she said, not turning around. "Don't pretend you care." I froze. "What?" "Of course I care. You're my wife." She turned then, and the look in her eyes made my blood run cold. It was a look I had seen before, but never directed at me. Not like this. It was contempt. Pure, unvarnished contempt. "Wife," she repeated, the word dripping with sarcasm. "Is that what you call it? Because I call it a prison. A prison I've been trapped in for 10 years. I set down the coffee pot, my hands trembling. "Valeria, I don't understand."
"What are you talking about?"
She walked toward me, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. Each step seemed to echo in the silence. "Look at you," she said, gesturing at me. "Look at what you've become. You're weak, pathetic, a shadow of the man I married." "Valeria, please." "You can't even defend yourself," she continued, her voice rising. "You just stand there, looking confused, like a lost puppy. It's embarrassing."
I wanted to say something.
To argue, to defend myself. But nothing came out.
She was right.
I was weak. I had always been weak.
And she knew it.
She walked back to the door and paused, her hand on the handle. "I'm going to work now," she said. "When I come back tonight, we're going to have a conversation. The conversation we should have had years ago." She left, and the door clicked shut behind her. I stood in the kitchen, alone, the silence pressing in on me like a physical weight. I didn't know what conversation she meant, but I knew, with a certainty that chilled me to the bone, that my life was about to change forever. She came home late that night. I had made dinner, but she didn't eat. She just sat across from me at the table, her hands folded, her expression unreadable. "Daniel," she began, her voice flat. "I'm not happy." "I know," I said quietly. "You've been distant for a while. I've noticed. I just didn't know how to." "Don't interrupt me," she snapped. "I'm not finished." I fell silent, my heart hammering in my chest. "I'm not happy," she repeated. "I haven't been happy in years. And it's because of you. It's because of who you are. Or rather, who you aren't." I shook my head, confused. "Valeria, I don't understand. What did I do wrong?" She laughed, a bitter, hollow sound. "You exist. That's what you did wrong. You exist and you're not enough. You've never been enough." I felt tears prick at my eyes. "Please, Valeria."
"Just tell me what you need from me."
"I'll change. I'll do anything." She leaned forward, her eyes boring into mine. "Anything?" she asked, her voice soft, almost seductive. I nodded, desperate. "Anything."
She smiled then.
A smile that didn't reach her eyes.
"Good.
Because I've been thinking, Daniel. I've been thinking about what it would take to make you worthy of being my husband. And I've realized that the problem isn't that you're not a good man. The problem is that you're not a man at all." I stared at her, unable to process her words. "What?" You heard me. She leaned back in her chair, crossing her arms. You're weak. You're passive. You're everything I despise in a man. And I've finally accepted that you'll never change. You'll never be what I need. Then why are you still here? I asked, my voice cracking. Why don't you just leave? She reached across the table and took my hand. Her touch was cold, clinical. Because I'm not a quitter, Daniel. I made a vow, and I intend to keep it. But the terms of that vow are going to change. What terms? She smiled again, that cold, predatory smile. I've decided, she said slowly, that if you can't be a man, then you'll be something else. Something more useful. That night, Valeria led me to the bedroom and opened the closet. Not my closet. Hers. She pulled out a dress. It was a simple thing, a floral print sundress with a pink pattern. It looked like something a teenager would wear to a picnic, not something a grown woman would own. Put it on, she said, thrusting it into my hands. I stared at the dress, my mind reeling.
What? No.
Valeria, I can't wear this. I'm a man. Are you? She asked, raising an eyebrow. Because from where I'm standing, you don't seem like much of a man at all. Valeria, please. Put it on, Daniel. Or I'll put it on for you. My hands were shaking. I looked at the dress, then at her, then back at the dress. She was serious. Deadly serious. Slowly, reluctantly, I began to unbutton my shirt. That's a good boy, she said, her voice dripping with condescension.
See?
This isn't so hard. You just have to stop fighting it. I pulled the dress over my head. It was too short, too tight, too pink. I looked at myself in the mirror, and I wanted to cry. I looked ridiculous. A grown man in a sundress, my shoulders too broad, my legs too hairy. But Valeria didn't see a ridiculous man. She saw something else entirely. You look beautiful, she said, her voice almost tender.
See?
This is who you were always meant to be. A beautiful woman. My beautiful woman. I looked at my reflection again. The dress was wrong. Everything was wrong. But something in her words, something in the way she was looking at me, made me pause. Come here, she said, patting the bed. Let me show you what it means to be a woman. I walked toward her, the dress swishing around my thighs, my heart pounding. I didn't know what she was going to do. But I knew, with absolute certainty, that I was too afraid to resist. The weeks that followed were a blur of humiliation and confusion. Valeria took control of everything. My clothes, my schedule, my identity. She woke me up every morning with a new outfit laid out on the bed. Skirts, blouses, lingerie. Every day, a new costume. Every day, a new reminder that I was no longer Daniel. I was something else. Something she created. She taught me how to walk in heels, how to apply makeup, how to speak in a softer, more feminine voice. She was patient at first, almost kind. But her patience wore thin quickly. No, 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 she yelled one evening, as I stumbled across the living room in a pair of 3-inch stilettos. You walk like a man. Like a clumsy, stupid man. Put your hips into it. Move like you mean it. I'm trying, I said, my voice trembling. I'm really trying. Trying isn't enough, she snapped. You have to be. You have to become it. She demonstrated, walking across the room with effortless grace. Her hips swayed, her posture was perfect, her confidence radiated from every pore. I watched her, a mix of admiration and envy filling my chest. Now you, she said. I tried again, and again, and again. Each time, she corrected me, criticized me, belittled me, and each time I failed. The humiliation was relentless, but it was also familiar. I had been failing all my life, failing to be the man I was supposed to be, failing to meet her expectations, failing to be enough. Maybe this was my punishment. Maybe this was what I deserved. The party was Valeria's idea. She had been invited to a colleague's birthday celebration, a lavish affair at a private club downtown. And she decided that I would accompany her. Not as Daniel, she said, her eyes gleaming. As Danielle, my beautiful wife. I shook my head, my heart racing. Valeria, I can't. Someone will recognize me. They'll know. No, they won't, she said, waving her hand dismissively. Not with the right makeup, the right dress, the right attitude. You'll pass. But what if someone sees through it? What if they? Then you'll be embarrassed, she interrupted. And I'll be embarrassed. And you'll have to live with the consequences. Valeria, please. Stop begging, she snapped. It's pathetic. You'll go to the party, you'll be Danielle, and you'll be perfect. Or else. I didn't ask what or else meant. I didn't want to know. The night of the party, I spent 3 hours getting ready. Valeria did my makeup, my hair, everything. The woman in the mirror was a stranger. She was beautiful, elegant, poised. She was everything I had never been. And she was terrified. We arrived at the club, and I felt like everyone was staring at me. The doorman, the coat check, the bartender. Every glance felt like an accusation. Every whisper felt like a judgment. But Valeria was radiant. She smiled, she laughed, she charmed everyone she met. She introduced me as Danielle, her wife, and I played along. It wasn't until the second hour that it happened. A woman approached us. She was older, stylish, impeccably dressed. She looked at me with narrowed eyes, as if trying to place my face. Danielle, she said, extending her hand. I'm Patricia, Valeria's partner from the firm.
I don't think we've met.
I shook her hand, forcing a smile. Nice to meet you. She looked me up and down, her gaze lingering on my face. You know, you look remarkably like Daniel, Valeria's husband. But of course, that would be impossible. The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I felt my face flush red, my heart pound in my ears. Daniel? My ex-husband. Valeria laughed, a sharp, brittle sound.
Oh no.
Daniel is long gone. I divorced him months ago. He was not what I needed. Is that so? Patricia's eyes were still on me. Interesting, because the resemblance is uncanny. I could feel the world closing in around me. The music, the lights, the people all seemed to blur together into a single, overwhelming sensation of impending doom. Maybe you should freshen up, darling, Valeria said, pushing me gently toward the bathroom. You look a little pale. I stumbled away, barely able to stand. I made it to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I sat on the toilet, my head in my hands, trying to breathe. What was I doing here? What was I doing with my life? Why had I let her do this to me? But I already knew the answer. Because I was weak. Because I was afraid. Because I had nowhere else to go. I heard the bathroom door open and someone walked in. I held my breath, waiting for them to leave. But the footsteps stopped outside my stall. I know you're in there, Daniel. It was Valeria. Her voice was low, urgent. Get out here.
Now.
I unlocked the door and stepped out. She was standing there, her arms crossed, her expression hard. You almost ruined everything, she hissed. Patricia knows. She's known for weeks. She just wanted to see you squirm. What? I was shocked. How could she know? Because I told her, Valeria said, her voice cold. I told her everything. About your transformation, about Danielle, about how you begged me to make you into a woman. No, I whispered, shaking my head. No, that's not true. I didn't beg. I never. I know you didn't, she said, cutting me off. But she doesn't know that. And now, everyone in that room thinks you're a pathetic man who would rather be a woman than face the consequences of being a failure. Valeria, how could you do this to me? She stepped closer, her face inches from mine. Because you deserve it, she said. You've humiliated me for years, Daniel. Every time you failed to be a man, every time you disappointed me, every time you made me feel alone. Now, it's your turn to feel what I felt. I started to cry. Great, heaving sobs that racked my body. I didn't care who saw. I didn't care who heard. I was broken. Valeria watched me, her expression unchanged. Pull yourself together, she said. We're leaving. And when we get home, we're going to have another conversation. About what happens to people who embarrass me. The ride home was silent. The silence of the grave. I couldn't look at her. I couldn't speak. I just stared out the window, my reflection a ghost of who I used to be. When we got home, Valeria led me to the bedroom. She opened the closet, and I expected her to pull out another dress, another costume, another humiliation. But instead, she pulled out a box. A small, plain box.
Open it, she said.
I opened the box. Inside was a ring. Not a wedding ring. Something else. A simple silver band with a small inscription. I read the inscription. Owned. I looked at her, horrified. Valeria, what is this? It's a symbol, she said, her voice calm. A symbol that you belong to me, that you are mine, and that you will never escape. Valeria, I don't want this. I don't want any of this.
Too bad, she said.
You made a vow. You said you'd do anything. And I'm holding you to that. She took the ring and slipped it onto my finger. It fit perfectly.
Now, she said.
Let's get you ready for bed. The days turned into weeks. The weeks into months. I became a ghost in my own life. I existed, but I didn't live. I went through the motions, dressed in the clothes Valeria chose, said the words she wanted me to say, became the person she wanted me to be. I was Danielle. I was her wife. I was her possession. And I had no way out. I thought about running away. I thought about ending it all. I thought about 1,000 different ways to escape. But every time, fear stopped me. Fear of what she would do. Fear of what people would think. Fear of being alone.
So I stayed.
And I endured. And I waited. It happened on a Sunday. Valeria was at work, and I was alone, as I often was. I was wearing a simple gray dress and a pair of flats, cleaning the kitchen.
The doorbell rang.
I froze. I wasn't supposed to answer the door. Valeria had made that clear. But the doorbell rang again, insistent. I walked to the door, my heart pounding. I looked through the peephole and saw a woman. A stranger. She looked lost, confused. I opened the door. Can I help you? I asked, my voice a little higher than normal. Hi, she said, smiling apologetically. I'm so sorry to bother you. I'm looking for my dog. He got out of the yard, and I've been looking for him all morning. I haven't seen a dog, I said. But I can keep an eye out. Thank you, she said. I really appreciate it. She started to walk away, then stopped and turned back. You know, she said, I don't want to be rude, but I saw you through the window. And I just want to say, you look lovely. That dress really suits you. I stared at her, stunned. Thank you. I managed. She smiled and walked away. I closed the door and leaned against it, my heart racing. She had called me lovely. She had complimented my dress. She didn't know I was a man. She didn't know I was forced to wear this. She just saw a woman, and she thought that woman was beautiful. It was the first kind thing anyone had said to me in months, and it changed everything. I looked at myself in the mirror, really looked, for the first time in what felt like forever. I saw a woman, a beautiful woman, and for the first time I didn't see a costume. I didn't see a prison. I saw someone who could be free. The stranger's words echoed in my mind. That dress really suits you. She didn't know about the humiliation, the pain, the forced transformation. She just saw me as a woman, and she saw something worth complimenting. Maybe Valeria was right. Maybe I was never meant to be a man. Maybe all my life, I had been fighting against something that was always true. Or maybe I was just looking for a reason to accept my situation. A reason to stop fighting. I didn't know the answer. But I knew in that moment that I needed to find out. That night, Valeria came home late. She was tired, irritable, and in no mood for conversation. But I needed to talk to her. Valeria, I said, sitting across from her at the dining table. We need to talk. She looked up annoyed. What about?
About me.
About us. About everything. What about everything? She asked, her voice flat. I need to know why you did this to me, I said. I need to know why you humiliated me. Why you forced me to become someone I'm not. She laughed, a cold, hollow sound. You still don't get it, do you? She said. I didn't force you to become someone else. I helped you become who you really are. That's not true, I said. You controlled me. You abused me. You made me into a puppet. No, she said, shaking her head. I made you into a woman. Because that's what you always were. I just helped you see it. What are you talking about? She leaned forward, her eyes burning with intensity. I've known for years, Daniel. The way you moved, the way you spoke, the way you looked at other men. You were never a real man. You were just too afraid to admit it. That's not true, I whispered. I was never attracted to men. It's not about attraction, she said. It's about identity. It's about who you are. And who you are as a woman. She stood up and walked around the table, stopping behind me. She put her hands on my shoulders. I did this because I love you, she said. I helped you become who you were always meant to be. And one day, you'll thank me for it. I sat there, frozen, her hands on my shoulders. I wanted to argue. I wanted to fight. But I couldn't. Because deep down, in a place I had never acknowledged, I knew she was right. I had always been different. Always felt like I didn't fit in. Always wondered what it would be like to be a woman. But I never had the courage to explore it. Never had the courage to even admit it to myself. And now Valeria had forced me to confront it. Maybe she wasn't the villain. Maybe she was the hero I never knew I needed. I started to accept it. I started to accept that maybe, just maybe, Valeria was right. That I was never meant to be a man. That all my life, I had been fighting against something that was always true. I started to embrace Danielle. Not as a punishment, but as a liberation. I started to enjoy the dresses, the makeup, the heels. I started to enjoy being seen as a woman. And for the first time in my life, I felt whole. Valeria noticed the change. She smiled more, praised me more, touched me more. She was no longer punishing me. She was loving me. You finally understand, she said one night, as we lay in bed. You finally accepted who you really are. Yes, I said. I think I have. She kissed me gently. I'm proud of you. And in that moment, I believed her. I started living as Danielle full-time. I quit my job, got a new one. I made friends, started a new life. I was no longer Daniel. I was Danielle. And I was happy. Valeria and I were a team again. She supported me, encouraged me, loved me. And I loved her back. It was a strange beginning. A painful, humiliating, forced beginning. But it led to something beautiful. Something real. Something true. I may never know why Valeria did what she did. Whether it was love or control. Whether it was kindness or cruelty. But I know that without her, I would have never found myself. I would have continued to live a lie, pretending to be a man I was never meant to be. And so, in a strange way, I'm grateful. Grateful for the humiliation. Grateful for the pain. Grateful for the transformation. Grateful for being forced to become who I really am. #epilogue. The woman in the mirror. I'm standing in front of a mirror. I'm wearing a beautiful black dress, a pearl necklace, and a pair of heels that make me feel powerful. The woman staring back at me is not a ghost. Not a victim. Not a puppet. She is a woman. Real and whole. Beautiful and strong. She is Danielle. And she is free. The scars of the past remain. I still flinch sometimes when I see a sundress. I still feel a pang of fear when I walk into a crowded room. I still have nightmares about the party, about the humiliation, about the beginning. But I'm no longer defined by that. I am defined by who I am now, by the woman I have become, by the woman I was always meant to be. Valeria is still part of my life. Sometimes I wonder if she loves me, or if she loves the control she has over me. But I've come to realize that it doesn't matter, because I'm no longer controlled. I am free, and I am finally, truly myself.